Welcome, everyone. As a film historian, I'm always looking at movies a little differently. I don't just watch the performances. I look really closely at the spaces those performances inhabit. And today, we're diving into what I consider an absolutely massive filmmaking challenge. How exactly do you capture the immense physical and emotional weight of a century-old architectural icon and do it entirely on a soundstage? Well, in this explainer, we're going to do a deep dive spatial analysis of the production design in the movie Hotel Mumbai and figure out exactly how the filmmakers pulled off recreating the legendary Taj Mahal Palace Hotel.
Think of this explainer kind of like a director's commentary on how the hotel itself actually acts as the central character of the movie. We'll be hitting 6 main points today: casting an architectural icon, the Taj blueprint, a century of firsts, designing the microcosm, the cinematic illusion, and finally, recreating the Taj's soul. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this first section, casting an architectural icon, the 2008 Siege.
To truly appreciate the production design of Anthony Morris's film, we really have to ground ourselves in the harrowing events of November 26, 2008. Over 3 impossibly long days, terrorists spread across Mumbai, and their ultimate tragic grand prize, the takeover of this extraordinarily famous hotel. Now, the filmmakers weren't just throwing up a generic pretty backdrop for stars like Dev Patel and Armie Hammer. No, they had to authentically portray this specific legendary location, the Grand Palace sitting right across from the Gateway of India, right there on the shore of the Arabian Sea. The physical space needed to feel just as real and urgent as the true story they were telling. This was absolutely crucial, especially to honor the selfless, real-life staff who literally shepherded guests to safety while trapped inside.
Moving on to Section 2, the Tata Blueprint, Origins of the Taj.
Now, to really grasp the massive scale the production team had to match, we need to rewind the clock all the way back to 1903. Now, what's really interesting about this is the backstory. There's this popular myth going around that the industrialist Jamsetji Tata built the hotel purely out of revenge, right? Because he was supposedly denied entry to a quote-unquote European-only hotel. But historian Sharada Davidi points out that the reality is actually much more poignant. So following the devastating Great Epidemic of 1896, Tata just wanted to reinvest in Mumbai. He built it out of a pure love for the city. He envisioned a place where Europeans and Indians could meet on equal ground. He sadly died the following year, but that beautiful dream, that became the symbolic blueprint the film's set designers absolutely had to honor.
And that dream was physically manifested in this stunning, dominant 19th century Indo-Gothic style. We're talking about a design by Indian architects Vaidya and Mirza that boasts this massive, gorgeous Florentine dome. Just imagine for a second being a production designer tasked with honoring that palatial facade and all those majestic architectural flourishes. It's wild. The building wasn't just a structure, It was a massive statement of early 20th century modernity.
All right, on to number 3, a century of firsts, looking at the hotel's evolution. So, the Taj basically dragged Mumbai right into the 20th century. When it opened in 1903, it was the very first hotel in India to have electricity, and later on, air conditioning. Tata actually went on this massive international buying spree. We're talking German elevators, Turkish baths, American electrical fans, the whole shebang. Fast forward to the 60s, and it housed India's first nightclub, called Blow Up, and even hosted the country's first fashion show. By the 70s, they added a 22-story tower featuring India's first 24-hour restaurant. So, for the film set dressers, this meant visualizing and sourcing props for a space that had spent an entire century collecting literally the finest things the world had to offer. Talk about a scavenger hunt.
Next up, Section 4, Designing the Microcosm, a Societal Collision.
I absolutely love this observation from actor Dev Patel. He said, "The great thing about hotels is that they are kind of a microcosm where all kind of strata of society can collide." And he hit the nail right on the head. The film takes excellent advantage of these meticulously dressed sets to show all these different layers of society interacting, or, colliding, under extreme, unimaginable pressure.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how staggering that historical societal collision really was. The guest list was completely wild. You had Western stars and leaders like King George V, Jackie Onassis, Madonna, President Obama, but it was equally beloved by Indians. You have crazy legends of a Maharaja just showing up at a reception with a pet tiger, or George Harrison taking sitar lessons from Ravi Shankar's up in a suite. Get this, it was even a 600-bed hospital during World War I. Gandhi addressed English authorities in its ballroom, and Lord Mountbatten gave his final speech there in 1947. Visually proving this rich, eccentric, completely layered history, That is exactly what made the set design so incredibly complex.
Let's move on to Section 5, the cinematic illusion, building the set.
Production designer Stephen Jones Evans summed it up perfectly. He said, "Creating the Taj, which is a very elaborate, beautiful, old heritage building, has been the biggest challenge on this film, without a doubt. And the biggest hurdle here? The real Taj Mahal Palace Hotel is still a busy, fully functioning, real-world business. You can't exactly just shut down a legendary luxury hotel for months to film explosions and gunfire, right? It's just not going to happen."
So the crucial point is how they use practical filmmaking magic to actually pull this off. They went with a hybrid approach. As you'll see, many of the hotel's exteriors were shot right on location in Mumbai, and then altered digitally later. But the interiors? Oh man, they were painstakingly recreated from absolute scratch all the way over at Adelaide Studios in Australia. The filmmakers practically built the lobby, the individual rooms, the massive kitchens, and the public spaces of the Chambers Club right there on a soundstage. And they had to ensure it all blended completely seamlessly with those Mumbai exteriors. It's like a giant puzzle.
And finally, Section 6, recreating the Taj's soul, the human element. You know, a truly great production designer doesn't just build walls and ceilings. They have to create a container for human resilience. During his research, the director, Anthony Morris, found that the Taj will keep us safe was actually the initial response of most survivors of the siege. So the production design had to visually support this profound feeling of a sanctuary. The guests' faith in the hotel wasn't just about thick walls, you know? It was proven justified by the heroic actions of the hotel's actual staff, and the sets had to frame that selfless heroism beautifully.
In fact, the staff's response was so exceptional that in 2011, the Harvard Business Review actually published an entire organizational culture study on them called The Ordinary Heroes of the Taj. They were literally trying to decode the formula of why the staff was so brave to see if other businesses could somehow duplicate it, and their conclusion? They noted that no single factor can explain the employees' valor. They found that their ordinary courage was in fact entirely extraordinary. It's just incredible.
So what does this all mean? Well, it leaves us with a final provocative thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. When you watch Hotel Mumbai, look really closely at the spaces. Can a meticulously designed film set, built thousands of miles away on a soundstage in Australia, truly capture the courageous soul of a real-world space in Mumbai? The architectural flourish has definitely set the stage, for sure. But it's the history of the building and the extraordinary human resilience it housed during those 3 horrific days that truly breathes life into the cinematic illusion. Thanks so much for joining me on this spatial analysis. Keep looking closely at the spaces in the films you watch, and I'll catch you next time.